Sometimes to survive in politics, you need properly functioning shock absorbers because the ad hominem attacks you receive from opponents can really discourage you. Because look at it this way, President Ruto has been going at Kalonzo in the recent days because he understands that in 2027, Kalonzo will be the person competing with him. And because of that, he has to do whatever possible to besmirch Kalonzo. So you will hear him mention things that, to be honest, if you don't have properly functioning shock absorbers, you'll not be fine the next day. But I don't know how Kalonzo will keep up with this, because more of these personal attacks will definitely come to Kalonzo's side. And these personal attacks have a psychological impact in the sense that the person receiving can be affected. But I understand, because Kalonzo is a legacy politician, he could be in a position to absorb them, but I don't know to what extent, considering that Kalonzo is not someone who is used to attacking others, besmirching them. He's someone who is soft. We all understand his personality. Additionally, when I talk about the psychological impact of these ad hominem attacks in our politics, is that, when you are attacked by the opponent, other people are likely just to laugh at you and feel that you are weak. So when President Ruto continues to attack Kalonzo all the time, criticize him, tell him that you've been in power for all this time, but you've not delivered, those who support Kalonzo will be like, wait a minute, does it mean Kalonzo is not this effective? Does it mean that Kalonzo can't really, offer something? Does it mean that Kalonzo is a bad leader? Such kind of questions will linger, because people will be asking tough questions. If this guy has been in power for 40 years, what has he done? And if Kalonzo counterattacks in a weak way, eventually people will be seeing President Ruto better in that sense. Look at it this way. In any argument, do you really need logic to win it? Sometimes you need it, but sometimes you don't need it. If you followed American politics and you know Donald Trump, how he campaigns, how he attacks his opponents, you'll know that sometimes you don't need logic. Instead, you can attack your opponent to look strong. And that's what makes Trump strong. He can christen you or give you nicknames and all that. And President Ruto is really good at that. And when you listen to this clip that I am sharing here, you will know that Kalonzo will be having a hard time to counterattack President Ruto for perception reasons.
Na mimi nataka niwaulize hawa jamaa wengine. Mambo ni mawili, my friends. Tafuteni sera na mkuje na track record yenu. Huwezi kusema kwamba umekuwa uongozi miaka 50, you have nothing to show for it. Wewe ni kumangamanga tu hapa, unapigiwa makofi. Ati ile kazi kubwa imefanyika ni wewe kupigiwa makofi. You have nothing to show for many years. So every leader, we have all had an opportunity to lead in this country. Wewe kuja na agenda ya kuuzia wananchi na ukuje na track record yako. If you have no track record of doing anything, don't waste our time. Na don't waste time ya raia. Ama namna gani? Mtu amekuwa aking'edhia tu barabarani hapo miaka yote, anazunguka tu hapa, ati alafu anataka tuharibia time. We don't have time to waste. Ama mnasema tuko na time ya kupoteza? We don't have time to waste. If you have no plan and you have no track record, I am sorry, Kenya does not have time for such, because we want to catch up with the rest of the world. We want to move our country to a first world country. If you have no track record of doing anything, if you have no agenda of doing anything, if you have no plan, ati ile agenda kubwa wako naye, one time, Kasongo, sijui masigo. Sasa hiyo ni agenda kweli ya kupeleka Kenya mbele hata nyinyi mkipima? Hiyo ndio ati, na ile mpango kubwa naye, wanaturingia naye ni ile ati wanataka kugawa serikali. Ati huyu atapata 20%, huyu atapata 30%, huyu. Ati hiyo ndio plan wako naye. Hiyo ni plan ya mnagawa serikali non-existent. Watu bure kabisa.
If you listen to this clip and ask yourself, The people who are listening to President Ruto, will they fact check President Ruto? In most cases, they will not. Not even in most cases. Nobody will fact check President Ruto. Kalonzo has been in power, as he mentioned, for 40 years. And we know that there are things that he has achieved. But because nobody will fact check him in the audience, that will be taken as that. So people will laugh, and eventually people will be building up a perception that will perceive Kalonzo as this leader who cannot be as effective as people think, because right now people are looking for a better alternative. So when these kind of personal attacks continue and Kalonzo is not in a better position to defend himself, then people will take that as the gospel truth. So eventually President Ruto will come out strong and stronger, and expect this to continue. I understand that on NTV, Kalonzo defended his record. He highlighted what he has achieved so far while in office, as a member of parliament, as vice president. And to be honest, the things that Kalonzo has done. But President Ruto will not focus on that and say that, okay, Kalonzo achieved A, B, C, D. No, for him, what he has to do is to look at areas where there are weaknesses, or he has to look at gaps. So he will leverage those gaps to build up a perception that will put Kalonzo definitely in bad light. So when that continues, how will people view President Ruto? As I mentioned, people will view President Ruto stronger and stronger, and others will see him as a better choice come 2027. I am not trying to create this, but when you look at it psychologically, when you look at it socially, when you also look at it how our own people process information, we know that what President Ruto is doing is good for political posturing, and that will favor him. If you want to be logical in politics, you will not get it. I saw a tweet from David Ndii where he says that sometimes republics can easily succeed when there are good people in power, but it is very unfortunate that people who get into power are bad people. So meaning, in most cases, good people don't get an opportunity to be in power. For instance, when you consider Raila was a good leader, but did we really celebrate him? Did we give him power? No, he did not become president. But when Raila passed on, so many people praised him, and so many people asked tough questions. Why do we deny him power? Perhaps he would have performed better and better. So in most cases, voters come to that kind of realization after making a mistake. And I don't know for how long shall this continue, because if voters only realize that they made a mistake after voting in a leader, then that is so bad, and you'll never recover from such kind of mistakes, because every time you elect a bad leader, you make several steps backwards. So even in 2027, I really do not know how will Kenyans mirror their leaders. How will Kenyans judge their leaders? Will they judge their leaders based on how they attack each other, or will they judge their leaders based on what they can do? Will they use logic? I highly doubt if that will be the case, because a Kenyan voter is just a Kenyan voter. And even in developed societies where people are intellectually advanced or placed, you'll find that they still make mistakes, because politics is politics and perception is perception. So it is all about how do you play your game well. If you play your game well, then you'll have that seat, you will win. If you want to use logic, but also as you use logic, you make sure you attack your opponent, because logic alone cannot make you get it right. When you look at someone like Barack Obama could use logic, and at the same time he would find a better way to attack his opponent. He could do it in a very strategic way. So at the end of it, you'd find that Obama was using a hybrid approach, that he can use logic. Sometimes he could use ad hominem attacks. He would attack you in a very fun way. So when you also attack, you should do it humorously. So I don't know if Kalonzo will have that kind of approach where he uses logic, but at the same time, he would say, logic aside, and let me just attack this person in any way another politician can do. Because if you have that kind of mixture, things can really work well for you, because voters will see you as this person who can be so logical, but at the same time, you can be this tough person who can attack your opponent humorously, and that will build a positive perception for you and project you as this great leader. And that's how politics is. It's never an issue of you saying that people know me as this intelligent person, so because of that they will elect me. No, it's an issue of persuasion, it is an issue of perception, it's also an issue of lying to voters. If you have that kind of mixture, you can have it easy. So for President Ruto, he knows how to handle all that. So I don't know how Kalonzo will counter this so that he stands a chance in 2027. What's your defense for Kalonzo? Do you think Kalonzo can really manage, to take down President Ruto and defeat him in 2027? Let's have that conversation in the comment section. Perhaps Wamunyoro will be President Ruto's match, because for Wamunyoro, he's good at personal attacks. So let's see how Wamunyoro will always come to Kalonzo's side to defend him from President Ruto's continuous or perpetual attacks. Otherwise, keep it here on Owen Row Podcast.
My friend, I know Kenyans have given up on people saying we will do away with corruption and what have you. But look at me. How many Kenyans can say, oh, Kalonzo is corrupt? Under Kibaki, when I was Kibaki's vice president, if I wanted to enrich myself, I would have done it. But I didn't. Because where I come from, my calling is to show leadership. I tell you, everybody knows if Kalonzo is president today, even those cartels, before we give them 3 months to wind up and return all the money they have taken to Dubai, to other tax havens, we want that money back. That money will give our people health care. That money, by the way, you say you're coming to education, will give our people free secondary education up to the university.